Welcome back to Berlin Midnight Meows. I'm Sponge Cake. I'm finally back from my Japan trip. Japan was nice. So nice that I brought a mic with me, thinking to record something for the podcast and maybe edit a little bit the recording from the live events last time. But Japan was too good. Couldn't do any of these. This episode is about my live podcast and stand-up comedy events in April. It was a full room of people. I was super surprised that so many people actually show up. It's Berlin. Everything comes with low expectation. You're gonna listen to the recording, so I don't think I have to dig into details here. It was my very first time, so of course there are things I could improve. For example, I've ran into a lot of technical issues. I had planned to record the whole session as a video. We just used our iPhone to do it, which I totally forgot that usually a phone doesn't have that much storage. But yeah, unfortunately, if you were there and you're looking forward to the video, maybe not this time. Coming to another problem, I forgot to ask the venue to give me the separate tracks of audio, so I couldn't edit out my own breath and just a lot of aggressive laugh. You're gonna hear it. It's like like this. This is also the first time I'm realizing, that's how I laugh. Just a little bit of a warning. Before we switch to the audio from that day, if you wear a headphone, turn it down, or you just play on a speaker. I would recommend this for the sake of your ears. So that's all of my tiny intro. I can totally go on and on for another 1 hour, but I won't because the recording of that event, after I cut all the excessive parts, things I didn't want, it's already more than 1 hour long, and I don't want this episode to be 2 hours long. So I'm gonna keep it short and really let you feel the vibe. I'm sure you are ready now after hearing me talk for already some minutes. So let's just switch over to the 27th of April when I had my first solo live events in Moabit, Berlin.
So we are recording everything, so also the mic, they might be really sensitive. So if you're gossiping behind the person that's speaking, it might capture everything, just so you know. Just so you know, yeah. I'm aware of that and shoot, so maybe if I don't have your consent, I can't publish that. And again, if you want to leave or take a break or take a shit, I don't know, please be quiet. Just try your best to just, somehow go behind people and stuff. So welcome back to Berlin Midnight Meows. That's my podcast title. And today it's more like a Berlin Midday Meows. And I'm really happy to have all of you here because, look at the sunshine. Between the sunshine and me, you chose me. I'm really honored. Berlin. In Berlin, people are crazy about weather and the threshold is really low. That's just a regular day in Hong Kong, I guess. We don't give a fuck to this. So yeah, I'm really happy that you're all here just doing this with me. And also for those who have never listened to my podcast, usually I'm just doing it alone in my bedroom. So it's a lot of people for me. And I'm also usually off stage. I also mentioned to some of you, I'm not that hyperactive. I'm actually quite introverted when I'm recording in the bedroom. So it's a very different experience for me. And yeah, I'm not sure if my opinions would be right for this because usually I say a lot of controversial stuff in my podcast if you have a listen. As usual, today I'm just gonna start with some random chit-chatting, and then if you want to add something, just again, like I said, raise your hand and I'm gonna pass the mic to you and it's your show time. That day, I think like some months ago, I remember some like kids, because I actually also live on the ground floor, so it's a little bit similar feeling. And some kids came to me and then just really randomly started harassing us, really like banging our door and also ringing our bell many, many times. And I was like talking to my partner. I'm like, wait, all these brats, can we just somehow follow them, stalk them, find their parents, and then complain to their parents? Like that? And my partner, he's German. He told me, no, it's not going to work because the parents going to be on the same side with them. And that was really mind-blowing for me. Because like from where I come from, if you do something bad and if your parents get a call, you over. Like that, like also they're never on the same side. Like my parents was never on the same side as me. The fuck? Like I didn't really understand that. Like I also mentioned a lot, I live in this kind of isolated but pretty poor area in Hong Kong. It's like pretty much at the border between mainland China and Hong Kong. So there basically children have no human rights. It's like this, like that kind of reminds me of a story back then in, I think, middle school. There was in the religion class, we had something like this. I actually went to a Christian high school. Hard to imagine, but there are a lot of Christian schools in Hong Kong because of the colonial background. And there was one time, just my classmate, he said something and then argued a little bit with the teacher. He actually got slapped, like in front of everyone. So it's like, like 30, 40 people watching, was a big class. And you might think, oh, wait, that teacher is being unprofessional, emotional, and you're gonna expect like apology from her. But no, in the end, the parent of that classmate actually like basically came to the school with the classmate and then they apologized to the teacher. And I think that classmate probably even got beaten at home for, being naughty or rebellious in school. So I don't know, like if you have experiences like this. No? Oh my God, really? So I was the only one that got abused. Yeah, okay. Let's see.
My brother and I both got a couple of beatings in Alabama growing up.
Oh no. What was the reason?
Just begging from the rest of the family, please discipline them. My parents, they're kind of hippies. They're like, fine, we'll do it.
Is it a common thing, like in where you grew up?
Yeah, traditionally, yeah.
Really? Where did you grow up?
Alabama, this deep south, redneck area of the U.S.
This might sound very confusing because I actually had never heard of Alabama. Thanks to the show and also the guy, he's actually a fellow comedian in Berlin who came to support me. I got to know this place. So that's like really common and many other children also had the same experience.
I mean, I think it's getting a little bit more progressive, but there's a fair bit of it going on.
Okay. So is that also like an area that's like, I don't know, like economically kind of like low income and like a lot of things like this happen a lot? Mostly,
yeah. I mean, I was in a college town, but they had this policy where you just needed a letter from the family that would say that you could beat the kid, and then the school would beat the kid for the parents. If they had the letter, needed it in writing. It's the U.S., nation of rules, yeah. So, anyway.
How to say this? That's to me kind of like a Western experience because for us, we don't write things down. That's the thing. Like things just happen. Like, but you actually have like a contract there that, okay, you put your kids here, so we're going to beat them like that.
Yep.
That's insane. Any other people? As I said, it's not just an Asian thing. Obviously, like there's a lot of global competition. Any other people? Yeah?
Sorry.
Go for it. I'm the side character.
Because, like you said, like Asian parents are very creative in the way that they beat their kids, right? Like all kinds of tools, chopstick to broomsticks. So I'm kind of curious, how creative were your parents? I'm sorry if it's traumatic, but
I think it was just, well, can I tell one quick story? Yeah, so my brother was just like terrorizing me all the time, and he would just like, we went to go play ball, and I come play ball with us. My dad threw him the ball, and he threw the ball into the gutter in the street, and I remember seeing my dad just like something go off in his head, and he like took the belt, and like we like watched from upstairs. He was with the belt. It was like belt or bare hand, so no like wood or anything, and nothing. Yeah.
Is that creative for you? Okay, like she's like, okay, too much. Like, okay, that's enough. And yeah, so I don't know whether, because I never believe in this kind of like culturally Western people are more, let's say, democratic or what. I think that's just like an environmental thing. Like that's just the environment, right? Like for example, for us, because I grew up in such a, also like just a really poor area. So parents, when they make kids, they kind of expect that as an investment because there's no social welfare. It's not existent in Hong Kong, basically. It's like, it's a very neoliberalist society that you don't have to pay much tax, but you take care of yourself. A friend of mine, she's an influencer in Hong Kong, and her name is Amelia. 2 weeks ago, she was actually also just, I don't know what she was doing there, but she was just there in that area. And she said, so she has never experienced this, that so many people were staring at her. And then I was like, because she was really confused. And I was like, no, that's not surprising for me because you obviously look like you're not from here. You know, this feeling that you look at people, you're like, this person is from somewhere else. It's an outsider. And of course, she had this downtown city center vibe. And she was even wearing super normal clothes. I mean, she's very hot, of course, but then still, she was wearing super normal things, and she even sent me a picture of like what she wore. I'm like, of course, it's not your problem. It's just like, of course, a man, they're a bit horny maybe, but then at the same time, I think the other people, they just found you in a weird way exotic, even though you look the same. I think that's like a rural, like city outskirt thing that, I don't know, if you also experience, I mean, I get stay a lot, of course. Like the whole Berlin, of course. But like, I don't know, the rest of you, if you look like minority, actually maybe you're not. Like for example, my partner, he's half German, half Chinese, but still, like he always told me, oh no, growing up, I didn't experience that much racism. I'm like, really? I'm like, really? You know, that's a man thing to say because they don't want to be vulnerable. Like, he's not a victim like that. And then one time we took an Uber home, and then the driver already, first sentence, like, where you from? To him. And then, of course, he replied in completely native, fluent German. And then he was like, where did you learn your German? Sounds really good. And then more and more it got into this, like, my dad is Chinese, like that. And then he was obviously not really getting it. He was like, oh yeah, China, I know they make good cars. Like the Honda cars, they're good. Like that. So I don't know, like anyone from this kind of fucked up area, actually anyone from Matan.
You're gonna hear Matan a lot. It's a famous outskirt area of Berlin.
Yeah, I would be scared, you know, because I keep shitting on it. So, no, okay, I'm safe, it looks like. Because I was like, okay, I'm doing it in person. I need to be a little bit more prepared. So I did some research. And it's actually true that Matan and where I grew up, they both really share a super high rate of like domestic violence. Didn't make this up, for real. And there's also like a background behind it because usually that's an area full of really unhappy couples. I don't know like how your parents are like, but then my parents, they had like a 12 years age gap. My mom came from a really rural village in mainland China.
Oh yeah, here I totally forgot to introduce my dad. My dad is from a very big city in the Canton area in China called Guang. It's very close to Hong Kong. And he was also born in Hong Kong, so there was some like family history. But basically, he was a city boy when he got to know my mom.
even though they're both, of course, Chinese, but then still there is a huge gap between that and like city, right? So they had a lot of like fights, and my mom, of course, she also came because she thought, oh, I found a good man. He is in a big city. He must be rich. I'm not saying she is a gold digger, but of course, that's like 40 years ago. Come on. So you kind of expect that the man brings you something, right, before you marry this guy. So for her, she came with all these expectations and then finding out, oh shit, we live in public housing. Also, not just one single building, all of it, like in the whole area. That's also how they plan Matan, because it's efficient. Like the government has to find a way to efficiently put a lot of poor people in that area. Also, you cannot let them touch the richer population, right? That's a kind of contamination for them. So they always put you in the like outskirt of city and stuff, just like let things breed there. And yeah, and then kids, like in that sense, like I said, we were made to work for our parents. You laugh. Did you have the same experience? Not really. Okay, but you laugh because you seem like you relate a lot. Oh yeah. Okay, now she's like, I want the mic.
I don't really have the same experiences because I'm German. So my parents are Chinese, I'm German. But I know a lot about this stuff happening. Okay. But actually the story you told earlier reminded me of, because I look Chinese, obviously, and I spent 3 months in Taiwan last year. And people told me that they could see I was a foreigner because they were like, no one would dress like you do.
Yes.
And so obviously I'm used to being an outsider in Germany, but then I went there and I was like, finally I look like everyone else. And they were like, nope. I think it's because I don't wear bras.
That's a serious problem, I think, in Taiwan. I mean, they're getting better. They're the most woke country already in Asia, but still, right? They're not used to that. Probably a lot of like the experience of a lot of Asian people, what's the full name? Like Western?
Asian, it's for white, so that's white Asian.
In Asia, that's a thing. Like once a trend comes up, everyone follows. So if you don't follow that, you don't do that specific kind of makeup, you just look like an outsider. So even for me, I was like made in Hong Kong. Also, I grew up in Hong Kong. I'm like the organic food in bio company in this sense. Really grew in the local farm. But still, if I go back, everyone will stare at me because it just feels like you have some vibe that looks foreign. Yeah, so what else I want to say? Yeah, I think that's like for me growing up in the Christian school in this kind of rural area, it's weird because that kind of Christian schools kind of have like a mix of course, Christianity, but also Confucianism. So can you imagine that? Like, it's super weird that on one hand, of course, there's the God there, there's Jesus there, but at the same time, they want you to do all the filial duties. They're always telling you, you need to listen to your parents because they're your parents, you belong to them. But it's like a weird mutation in Hong Kong that you have all these leftover from the British time, and then they kind of turn into something super weird. I see someone nodding. You have something to add?
Yeah, I resonate very much with Asian plus Christian means crazy. Because I think something about being Asian and then you got a new another set of rules to follow. You're like, damn, I'm gonna do it better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And also I feel like because Christianism was introduced in Asia by the rich immigrants, but also the colonizers. So in the early time, if you convert to Christianism, that means your family is more westernized, which makes you more modern and richer. And so people thought it would be cooler. So they want to do it the best. And honestly, my dad was a pastor.
Oh.
And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Everyone wakes up.
Like, if you think, like, because German Catholic people can be very crazy too, right? Especially in the South, like all the exorcism cases, the crazy one, the deadly ones were in the South. But like Asian ones are crazy too. Like I have so many friends growing up who think that holding hands are not allowed until marriage, and not to mention like openly talking about like how guilty you feel about masturbating, and like just having desire for anyone, not just the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun though. I'm from Taiwan.
Ah.
And yeah.
Now you can compare, you know. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. But also, like, not just like you're not allowed to hold hands. Like, I think many people really believe if you hold hands, you'll get pregnant, right? Okay, maybe it sounds better in where you grew up, because for me it was the case. Like, because there were also a lot of like crazy dramas about TV dramas about all these like just incorrect sex, like information about sex and stuff. So people kind of believe that. And I guess kissing as well.
Yeah, they think it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Kissing leads to sex. Sex leads to premarital sex and babies.
That's true.
And poverty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't want to have kids. Yes. Totally. Yeah, thanks. Let's just put it here. Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, obviously my parents didn't know, so they made more kids, thinking we're gonna get rich with these kids. And look at where I am. Yeah, I'm not giving them money at the moment, so like, you know, you're like shocked, like, because I mean that's also a thing. Maybe it sounds again like weird, but it's like a duty or responsibility for Asian kids to still keep paying their parents monthly, like a salary kind of stuff that you have to keep paying them, in a sense to return what they've done, like to raise you. So their investment, you're gonna pay it back. Like it's like a loan from the bank. Like you have to pay that back. Yeah, I think people sometimes, the teachers at my school, they always ask us to do weird things. For example, before we have our math test, we always had to pray. That's such an Asian thing, you know. The other things fine, but math, you gotta pray for this. Also, it's very true that many people who attended this kind of Christian schools, they were not even Christian. Like you would have this like wild mix of actually your kids are going to a Christian school, but then at home you're Buddhist. Like this, or like Taoist. Super weird, but that happens a lot because again, if you manage to send your kids to Christian schools, then that means they have a brighter future. So of course everyone is trying their best to do it. So there is like a goal behind becoming Christian. So they just turn their kids Christian for this. Another thing about my weird area is it's full of poor people. But then for my dad, he kind of thinks if you have bad grades or low income, that's because you're lazy. So sometimes when I talk about, like discrimination here, not always against me, but just like against anyone, then he would be like, is it because you didn't work hard enough? Yeah, because you can also change that. That's also his idea of, as long as you work hard enough, you can change your life, your destiny, whatever. But he never managed to change his own life. And I kind of think it's because in that kind of like area full of public housing, like the density is so high that it's not even like you will bump into rich people across the streets. So it's really just like a whole town of people from the same class, and also there's not so much cultural like infrastructure there. There was no library for a while, or like a very small one. So people also don't talk about culture. Let's talk about something different, maybe. There was something I just wonder a lot in the Western society, because I think it's always very, like when we talk about feminism and stuff, we talk about how women like need to be stronger and in a sense like a man, or like better than man, like that. I have a lot of friends that are like the total opposite. They're super feminine, they wear skirt, everything of them is like pink, and also long hair, talk very softly. But then I actually think they're very strong. That's a thing I found it probably a bit foreign for people here, that when you see this kind of like really quiet, gentle woman that's like making panto for their husbands, that doesn't mean they're weak. They could be like manipulating men in another way. They're really smart. Like there are also a lot of TV dramas about this that I think if the Western audience see it, they would be like confused. Like, wait, like you like dressing up because you oppress, right? But then they also take this as like a tool or strategy to gain power. And I think that's something that people are not super used to here. And also same in the K-pop industry. If you see this kind of idols doing cute concept on stage, off stage they are likely actually quite boyish. Or like the opposite. They like this kind of duality that if you like on stage you're like really cool and strong, then off stage they also feel like they need to be a little bit like softer to balance it out. Have you experienced something like this? I get told a lot because obviously I do dress up. And sometimes people take it as a sign of like you're not that independent or what, like that you're doing this to please someone else. But in a sense, I don't feel oppressed in this way. I mean, of course, like in Asia, it's like another kind of pressure that if you don't do makeup, when they don't do makeup, they have to wear a mask when they go out. So that's another kind of pressure, of course. But I think sometimes, even though in the West people talk so much about like diversity, also like we accept all kinds of people, there's still some kind of weird mainstream that add pressure on people that are not really fitting the norm here. Also for men, in a sense, the need of masculinity is a little bit stronger even. I mean, most guys are not that muscular. That's not the normality, right? But then here, I think it's a little bit stronger, even that, oh, you as a man, you need to know how to repair shit and stuff. Yeah, at least my brother is not this kind. He doesn't know how to repair shit. Yeah, I don't know, like, how you feel about, like, this here? Any, I don't know, like, anything to add? You don't have to agree again. No? Yeah? Wait, yeah.
I think
go
it's
ahead.
really interesting because I think there's a lot of, especially in Berlin, where feminism is kind of the norm, there's a lot of virtue signaling going on, and like people want to signal that they are like one of the cool ones and where you can like freely express yourself, but then it kind of turns into a separate kind of norm where like everyone has to have very short bangs.
Exactly, yes.
But
We have some people with short bangs in the room, so.
and I love that for you, like. But I think it's kind of turning around to where people feel more free to express themselves in very feminine ways too. I think it kind of went from this like very one-directional approach to like an actual kind of like being open. I don't know if you agree, but I feel like we're going in a good direction.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's also like a generation thing. Like, I think nowadays, like with the internet, I think in the past, there were a lot of things that were kind of like subculture that you didn't really get to reach that. But nowadays, of course, everyone has heard of a little bit K-pop, like, and you're exposed to that kind of culture. So you're also, in a sense, more exposed to different types of people. But yeah, I mean, it's nice that it's changing, but yeah, I think you're right. Also in Berlin, you need to be cool. That's so weird because on one hand, you're really free. You have a lot of freedom. You can do whatever you want, and that's like what everyone encourages you to do. But on the other hand, if you're not cool, right? If you're not cool, then yeah, you're just not cool. Then you're not you're not, like, let's say, as accepted as like being cool and I don't know, like partying all the time, like getting fucked. You want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like to add something to it. Like, so I moved to Berlin around a year ago, and I like to observe, like, and think and check how the society works. And I feel like really in Berlin, it's like an imperative. It says like, you have to be individual. You have to express yourself and find yourself. And like, you don't have an option to not express yourself. Like, you can be, of course you can be individual in a way of, like you don't have to express it, but here you have to find the clothing, whatever. You have to do the activities. Like there's no escape from that. Like you're an outsider if you want to be a conformist in a way. Like it's really funny. It's like
Yeah, I mean, you're just 1 year here, so still a long way to go.
yeah.
I don't know how you stand this, but I totally agree. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm on the individualist side, so I do feel like I enjoy a lot of benefits. But sometimes, of course, I have friends that are like more on the traditional side, and then also, also a lot of times if they're traditional, they're not that high profile, so it's also quite hard for them to come out as a traditional person. Yeah, I'm traditional as fuck. I want to find a rich husband. I want to have kids. That's just who I am. Please accept. And so it's also hard. But I totally agree. And
It wouldn't be feminist too.
yeah, of course. Yeah, it's really about just embracing who you are. But of course, like the social pressure is always there. When we say I don't give a fuck to like other people's opinion, of course we give a fuck, right? It's just like a level, like an extent, like maybe I care less or what. But of course, if everyone around me is like going to Berghain every day, then I would also feel like, oh my God, am I not cool if I don't take drugs? Yeah, but really nice input. Anyone else? Oh, you're just passing it back. Okay. Yeah, just let it sit there. Thanks. Yeah, that's like weirdly the problem of Berlin, and it's like constantly coming out, you know what I mean? Like in the past, you had to come out as a minority, and now you might have to come out as the majority, and you have to constantly do that. And if you're not brave enough, you still somehow pressure to be someone you don't want. And I also know a lot of people, they're partying not because they love that, they just want to blend in. It's like you're in Berlin, you're not going to clubs. What are you here for? Why such a long way here to do nothing? Like, I'm also in a long-term relationship now, which is weird for Berlin, even though many people say they want it, but I don't think so. It's like, you want it, but you don't want it, like that. It's monogamous and long-term. It sounds almost scary. It's a horror story, right? Yeah, but when I talk about this, yeah, it sounds weird. Like, also, is it like, do you really want it? You know, that kind of things. Let me think, like, what else can we talk about? Oh, we have someone from Singapore. Maybe we can talk about this. I want to mention it's a little bit related to feminism. It's more like a weird phenomenon in some Asian countries that we have domestic helpers that they basically take over the housework from the women that are working in that family. All these women, they can still pursue their career while having kids and doing everything. But on the other hand, that's actually just outsourcing the labor to other women that are from a lower class or like a poor country or what. And yeah, is it, because I know that's also growing in Singapore, right? This trend.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, I think it's wage arbitrage, right? Like it's a lot of. I mean, sorry, I'm not an expert in economics, but I think that
I'm also not. Come on, I only study that. Doesn't mean I'm an economist or what.
You probably know it a little bit better than I do. But I think like there's a lot of if I could use this very strong word, I think there's a lot of exploitation that goes around in Southeast Asia, especially from Singapore, because you kind of take advantage, or Singapore takes advantage of the situation in Southeast Asia, that they know that it's possible to bring people from other countries in Southeast Asia into Singapore. And there's also kind of like, it also sounds very on brand, because like I think in Singapore, for example, like you see all the buildings and everything, but a lot of times what people don't talk about is that the buildings are actually built by people who come from other countries in Asia. And most of the time, these people are not really treated very fairly, in my opinion. So it's a little bit on brand, I guess, for Singapore, right? Of course, that being said, I mean, like, I actually feel like for the most part, sometimes in Singapore, people just kind of always, actually there's this friend of mine who lived in Singapore for a while from Germany, and she always says like, yeah, you know, like Singaporeans, like, you just throw money at the problem. That's always the joke. Like you just, like you have a problem, it's fine. Like just take money and throw it and make it go away. And that's like a very Singaporean thing. Which is,
I know this. You know, that's first from Hong Kong, I think. I think it's fair to say this because Singapore is still a pretty new country. I just heard that Singapore really took a lot, learn a lot from Hong Kong, what's successful, what's working, what has been working in Hong Kong all the way to Singapore. And but it's a weird dilemma, right? Because without those domestic help, actually you're very polite. He said he said exploitation, and then he was like, wait, is that word too strong? I mean, I've been
where I come from, Singapore, saying something like that is also not very acceptable. Yeah, I mean, same as in Hong Kong. So, I've come a long way. To be just shitting everything. So it's a weird dilemma because without them, then the local women also can't really have the same career as compared to having help and support from domestic helpers. Actually, most of the time, those domestic helpers, they're from Philippines, Indonesia. What else? I think that's it. Myanmar as well.
Vietnam and these countries, and there the living standard is indeed way lower. So indeed, with doing this job, they can really make a lot of money and then take them back to their country and build houses and stuff. So in a sense, it's also helping them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's also kind of deeply unfair as well. So some of so back home, some of my friends, of course, would have helpers at home. And it's also very unfair because some of them come with, for example, big families as well. They would have 5 kids at home. So I cannot imagine the emotional burden of having to look after someone else's kid, especially when you have many other things to think about when you have your own kids back home that you cannot do it. So I think for the most part, I feel, and maybe this is an overgeneralization, but I think a lot of Singaporeans don't really see that as well. They just kind of have this very contractual relationship with people who do this. It's just I pay you money and therefore you have to do this. But I don't think a lot of people stop to really think, okay, this is what is happening, which is unfortunate.
Go ahead.
I lived in the Philippines for a couple of years, and it was especially the upper classes who were against any improvement of the working conditions of the maids. They don't even have paid holidays and so on and so forth. But now I want to lead the discussion back to Europe maybe, and I think the sort of gig economy here, in a way, we all think we don't have personal laborers or maids slaving at home, but I do think this delivery service and all that stuff is maybe a weaker version, but it's some kind of outsourcing.
Go.
Or even how everyone who helps at home is Polish here. All of the families I know who have housekeepers are Polish, and I even know a family where they pay her to be there full time, and she goes for 3 months at a time and then leaves. And that's basically the same concept.
So just as black worker like that, because it's not legal, right?
I don't actually. Yeah, maybe I don't actually know, but it's an older man who can't take care of himself anymore, and because they're rich, they can afford to have a full-time Polish housekeeper, who also cares for him. Basically, a nurse.
Yeah, so I guess they would name it a nurse, but you know what it is. Yeah. But I mean, there are a lot of things to unpack. First of all, I think even just put all these people aside, even for the women here, that's also what I observe. For the German moms here, they have really high standard for themselves. They have to get up so early, they do everything with their kids. That's even something that we don't really do that much in Asia. I think in general, in Asian countries, the parents, they are more okay with kids just go study. But then here you even need to play with them all the time. You have to do all the fucking shit with them. And also going to, different classes and doing all kinds of activities with them. And still have a job and still have to make food themselves. So even without a domestic helper, that's also kind of hell. Yeah. And they still... Yeah, right? I think many people also burn out. But of course, this kind of hiring someone from a cheaper country to, do a lot of things for you, that's such a common thing. Also for the OG, domestic helper situation, for those who are not familiar with this system, it's not just asking this person to come to your home and clean. That's not how it is. It's they live with you there. They have to live in just really bad situations. I actually heard of cases that people just build like a bunk bed in their toilet, and then the domestic helper just sleep there. And because for them it's like, I mean, you like a labor to me, so why are you living in my place for free? That's why a lot of people, like, they don't really see them as like human, because they think, oh, I'm the boss and you're doing all this work for me, so this is your office. Like, my home is your office. Like, if you're pregnant in the meantime, then it's also like a big problem. I also see a lot in like some Hong Kong forums online. They always discuss this kind of situation, like, shit, my maid got pregnant. Like, such a whore. Like, they would say something like this. For them, the maids, they have to work there all the time, and they can't be thinking other things. No entertainment, no shit. You should be just working for me, like that. That's how they realize, oh, you also have private life, and that's not allowed. So that's why, like, we talk about it like this, because it's kind of like, it's like slavery. But yeah. Okay, now I use an even worse word than you.
No, but that's the right characterization.
Yeah. You want to talk? Yeah.
I mean, since you brought up slavery, I was going to mention, like, I even saw a report about these domestic workers working in London for, like, Arabic families, and they are actually in, like, slavery situations where their employer will keep their passport and not return it to them, and they won't let them leave their house by themselves and everything. And it's to the point where even the police in the UK can't do anything about it. And so, like, independent help groups have to, like, help break these people out of these houses and get them on flights back to their home country to help them escape. And it's like, if this is already happening, like, here in the Western world, imagine, like, how bad it is in Asian countries where there perhaps isn't that much regulation or even help groups to help these people escape the situation.
Yeah, indeed. I was about to say, like, looks like British people left that behind. They still have it. Yeah, just not on paper, Yeah, crazy. Yeah, it's like, we thought, we're in Berlin. We talk about something really advanced. We talk about, open relationship. and then still, like, there are a lot of, like, human rights stuff that are still, like, problems everywhere without a solution yet. But yeah, it's true. Like, I think in many Asian countries, there's no regulation, and the government kind of even supports the exploitation. And that's also how they reinforce this feeling of, these people are not humans. They are just like some kind of robot that work for you. They don't need a break. They don't need holidays. They are not going to date. They're going to just be there somehow, feeding your kids like that. In Asian culture, we have this, in Northeast Asian culture, we have this weird phenomenon of, we got a lot of pressure growing up. We have to study very hard, not so much emotional support. But on the other hand, many of us were also, like, not asked to do any housework or what. Like, so that's like a weird mix. On one hand, you are very resilient, but on the other hand, you're not that self-sufficient. Like, like my brother, it would take him like half hour to make a scrambled egg. And then he was really proud, because usually that's not his job, right? His job is not cooking at home, and usually my mom cooked for him, but he likes cooking. That's why, because it's a hobby. Like, I'm like, okay, if cooking is a hobby, good for you. So he was really proud when he was making this scrambled egg for me, and I was like, come on, you like using my electricity, you fucking bitch. Why it takes so long for you to make this? Yeah, and it's a very common. I think now maybe it has already become a bit better, but in the past still there's kind of like women, daughters, you have to do everything. Like, you have to do all the housework. You have to do some also emotional labor. That's also like a very common thing for new parents to wish for, like, their first kid as a girl, so the girl can take care of the younger brother. So it's a very common thing. And that's like free labor again. It's also quite common for parents to have a lower expectation for the boys. Even for me, when it was like Lunar New Year time, I was like helping out at home. My grandpa would always pull me to the kitchen, and while my brother was just watching TV in the living room, because he thinks it's also not just me helping out, but me learning how to be a wife. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's like this, but it's still kind of common. Also, a lot of moms have like weird obsession over their boys, like this like boy mom phenomenon that yeah, some people know, some people don't. It's weird, you know. Like sometimes I'm like, that sounds shady, you know. Yeah.
I want to ask, like, do you feel a lot of anger, or how do you deal with this disconnect of like being in a society where you're like where your day-to-day life is very like independent and feminist, and then returning home where all the cultural expectations are placed on you? Like, do you feel like you can cope by separating these worlds, or do you get like angry when that happens at home? Because that's something I struggle with.
Yeah, I guess many of us, if we are exposed to different cultures at the same time, probably we all have this struggle. I mean, first of all, that's why I'm here. I'm not in Hong Kong now. As I said, like so many things, I wouldn't have said all these things like in Hong Kong. But I don't know, it's about understanding the background, right? It's just like how the social structure kind of made you. If you have more like safety net and so, then your parents wouldn't need to abuse you to that level to just somehow secure their pension like that. Actually living here, I struggle more with this kind of not so superficial stereotypes, but this kind of deeper stereotypes. For example, this kind of like Asian women, you wear skirts, that means you kind of weak. Like that kind of stereotype for me is actually more annoying than like, yeah, because I think that the Asian thing is kind of well known, that everyone knows like there's a lot of things fucked up there. So in a sense, also don't have to explain so much. But this kind of like flipping around the same concept, I think for many people here, it's kind of hard to understand. Yeah. Do you have, I don't know, any examples of you struggling here? Like,
Do you mean like German society or my parents?
let's say this like split of like your inner world, because you like there are like two cultures there, and you know both of them.
For sure, because yeah, so my parents are pretty liberal for Chinese parents, but they are still Chinese parents.
Okay,
you know?
yeah, I know what you mean.
So I'm about to finish med school. Do you believe that I chose med school?
Oh, but at least you made it.
Well, yeah. And then it's really hard to explain to my German friends, you know, because they're like, what, you didn't, like, your parents pushed you to do that? You poor, suppressed little thing.
Yeah.
And it's like really hard to get that together in my head as to being like, I am strong and independent, but also I have these pressures at home. And then to what degree do I want to fulfill these expectations, and to what even comes from myself, kind of like I don't even know like what I want.
Yeah, I think I can relate, because like of course you started so many things because you were forced, but I think like over time when things develop, yeah, actually there are certain things that you're fine with that. So
turns out medicine is really fun.
Yeah, for example. And I mean that's also like a bit sad for the, yeah, let's say if you're like high achiever, actually you're more fucked in Asian society because you can achieve more, so they keep like milking from you.
Oh my God, yes. And I thought, okay, I'm getting into med school in Berlin. My parents are going to be so happy. And now they're like, you have to be a professor at Charité.
Oh God.
And I'm like...
Oh my God.
And the city where I'm from, they have a WeChat group that is for parents who want their children to go to Charité. And the children haven't even graduated high school yet.
Oh my God.
So, I mean...
Oh my God. This is so classic. But also, I think I know that's also pretty much like a overseas Asian thing. Because actually most of them are elites. Oh, go ahead. Someone probably from the same family or what?
Okay, yeah, I have... It's funny because I've met, like, I'm also like German Chinese. I've met several female German Chinese people here. They are
You're in the
mostly
group.
medicine students. So also, yeah. Like, yeah, I have something to say about it because talking about elitists. So my father and other families that I know, they were actually sent by the Chinese government to Germany to study. So, same.
Oh my God, my partner as well. But then he failed his country. He never went back.
Yeah, my father even went back. There's like even other story, and it's even connected to Berlin. It's crazy, but that's like too long to talk about. But like so I grew up with these families. So we were like all these. Like, for me, it was normal, of course. I mean, like I was like in the Frankfurt area before. And so every children was like, we were just like having fun together, and like, it was all normal. But later on, you know, when you're getting to study and you keep in touch and you look at what they're doing, and going to Boston Consulting and McKinsey and all these, that's all like one father. The father was a professor, like the first Chinese professor in Germany. These and I see all these pressures, like. For example, for myself, like I have one story. There was one, like the eldest son. He wanted to become a pianist. He, like he was like he could do, you know, play piano all for fun. But then he actually got serious about it. He really wanted to study piano, and there was like huge drama in the community. It's like, oh my God, the parents were so mad, and like, you know, parents talking about these kind of things, and I was like, okay, like, like for myself, I felt like my parents were pretty open, like I could do stuff, but you know, at the end, I studied physics in Heidelberg, and not feeling very pressured, but of course they were very relieved, and I was like, okay, I do this, okay, it's fine, and then you can do whatever. After I had the degree, and then I went other ways. But I still feel like as the eldest son, even nobody, like my parents don't really tell it in a way, but I feel like the pressure, or like I have to carry a name and whatever, and we're just like this one part of the family here. Like my, for example, my mom, like my father's the only child. My mom only has a brother who doesn't have children. Like he's in California somewhere. And so it's just us and me, at least. I have a little brother, and like we have to carry the family legacy. It's really weird, and it's really hard to explain to Western friends here, this kind of concept.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, this is hard, but also like kind of classic. Well, by the way, my partner, he got to study art history though. Yeah, right? Like, but then like it's the same that like his dad was also chosen to come to Germany. That's not just like the level of becoming a doctor, or you know, back then, some decades ago, that's intense competition. Also, it was still the really hardcore communist time. So you imagine like this country gathering all the money just to send this group of kids out. You know, you have to win a lot of people. We're talking about like billions of people, probably. And that's why the standard was really high, that his dad never understood. This math is so simple. Why don't you understand? Like for him, he didn't really understand this, because just naturally, because if you're that good at studying, it's both. Like, of course, you're hardworking, but I'm sure there's some genes in it, like that you're just good. And his German was also perfect. So he never understood why my German is not good, because for him, he doesn't even have an accent. So when he picks up the phone call, people are always confused, like, wait, like, you know, the last name is not right. Like, you know, there should be a German person talking, but then, yeah, your last name looks very Asian. But also this piano thing, so fucking weird. Asian parents, they want you to learn how to play piano. You have to be good, but not to become a pianist. Like, you should stop when you're 15. That's the perfect time. But if you go on, that's not good. Okay, let me ask a question. Who can play piano here?
Okay, you can't see, right? So I'm describing here how it looked on that day. Basically, most Asians in the room raised their hand.
I actually got asked the same question when I was in university. Basically, the whole room raised their hand, except me, because I'm from grassroots. So this weird thing, even though I grew up just pretty poor, but at the same time, because I didn't have the resources to learn all these music instruments. So in a sense, I kind of got some freedom because of this. And I still remember, really, the whole room raised their hands, and then 3 kids didn't. One of them was me, and we're all from Matan. Yeah, because like Otherwise, you would need to learn. Like maybe don't need to be really good, but at least everyone would have to learn. That's also a little bit similar to like Asian parents don't want you to date until when you were like 22 or what. Then they're asking you, where's your kid? Like there's always this like huge jump, like this unrealistic expectation. And honestly, like many people don't even know how to date. Like at that point, because they have been always like forbidden to date. They don't even know how to talk to opposite sex people. No joke, I'm gonna tell something crazy, but I didn't make this up. Some of the guys, they don't even know where's the hole. So there was like a news coming out because one guy probably was his first time, and he actually just went into the wrong hole, and that's a pee hole. And of course, yeah, the woman got sent to hospital because of this, and they were still trying it, so both of them didn't know.
That's not the wrong hole I was expecting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the wrong hole. Yeah, that's a third hole. That's a hole that is very unexpected. But that's the hole I was talking about. And I was also like, oh my God, how can this happen? But obviously, if you never got any sex education, that's how it is. All these people, they also went through, our parents, they also went through, like a process. Like they also grew up like as a kid and then also went through different steps and also had to date and then form a family. And where's this unrealistic expectation from? Anyone has a clue? Now we just said. Don't have to be. I think all of us, because we are like openly talking about it, that also kind of means like we are over it to some extent. Yeah. Can you pass the mic? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I have a question, like jumping back to what you said about sex education, because I'm extremely curious. Like I know in Asia it's not a very talked upon topic, right? And even though like in Taiwan we have health class, but it was like all over the place. Like I didn't go to a Christian high school, but we had a Christian healthcare teacher. So she contacted do you know the institute called Exodus? It's an American institute that converts gay people back to normal, quote unquote. And so she invited them over, and then they talk about how it's okay that you like the same sex. Now you will get better. But anyways, I'm a bit curious because I've met and dated like people from other cultures as well, but it does seem like a lot of guys still learn about sex from porn mainly. So I don't know if it's really an Asian thing. Yeah.
No, that's not an Asian thing for sure. I think many can agree in the room. That's definitely not an Asian thing. But yeah, I think there are probably some countries that are doing better. Some cultures just, we're not that open about it. The organization, so we didn't really have like regular sex education class. So the school would need to invite some organizations to the school to somehow give a talk. There's no system. There's also no curriculum or what. It's just like random, like coming to you and trying to brainwash you like that. But if you say it like that, that also sounds like some kind of unpleasant like sex, like you had with like some ignorant guys or what? Like because you said okay, maybe I made this up because you said it seems like many guys like you said like they learn from porn or what? You don't have to say it if you don't want. If it's too traumatizing, you don't have to.
No, I've dated Germans before. They say I don't know if they know more. Like I've met so many guys who claim that squirting is real, right? And I've met girls who don't know if squirting is real too. So I'm not sure if Germans or Westerners know better.
Probably not, I guess. Yeah, probably not. I think for them it's just like easier to get resources. But of course you can be sitting at home and not, getting educated at all, I guess. Was he a gamer?
Yeah.
Yeah. That explains everything. That explains. Yeah, probably not just porn, but like, porn games and stuff. There comes like a weird thing I did in Hong Kong because because my ex liked gaming so much, so we made a porn game together. Like a pretty rough one, so it was not so complete. But like that was a time when we were in Hong Kong together after we got married. And of course, he was having hard time living in Hong Kong. It's like completely different, like climate's already hard for him. And we were just sitting at home and was like, hey, just do something. Because he was also not actively looking for jobs. I was like, just do something, kicking his ass, trying to that's also the moment that I felt like, wait, am I behaving like an Asian mom or what? And then I was like, you like gaming? Then maybe we can just make something together. So I wrote the script. It was a story game. That kind of like you can choose, like you have options and then you can choose which plot you go into like that. He did the programming parts and also did the illustrations. Yeah, we did launch that. He even opened a Patreon for that. But of course, no one wanted to pay for it. It's fucking weird. We also took the inspiration from One Piece. The characters, they all look like the characters from One Piece, just like a more like the cooked version like that. Later, he put it on a free porn game site, and I think many people play that. I don't know, if it's still there. Also, because he was at home doing nothing, so. Sounds shit, but I was like, maybe just to find something for you to do. So I made a part-time boyfriend profile for him because he's like Westerner. I was like, you exotic, you tall, you skinny. That's like people's type here. So maybe you're gonna get some customers. It was a growing trend that many people, like, they were single and they wanted to have the dating experience. So you can rent a part-time partner for whatever purposes. So people would also make a menu. I also made a menu that started with German class per hour, this amount of Hong Kong dollar, all the way to holding hands, and then something more, but on request, like that. So we had a weird monogamous relationship. So I was like just basically selling him out like that. Huh? Sorry? Yeah, definitely. No, I was just being an economist, I saw the potential, so I just put him out there. But I think he already got some requests, like messages in the first week, all from men. Everyone was like, can I suck your dick? And I was actually like, yeah, do it. I don't mind. But he mind. So that didn't work out. But that's a weird market there. I think this is also growing in Germany, in Berlin at least. I saw some documentary about this. It's a positive trend. No? No? I just think, at least you find someone and it's clear, it's contractual. There's no misunderstanding. There's no Me Too. It's going to be all with consent. I think it's pretty good. But we closed the account quite fast because I just realized, okay, you can't really do the job, then no. So I think we have done roughly 95 minutes recording. So it's a lot of input from you. I'm really happy about this. I don't know how you feel. It's a really nice, very fun session for me. That's why I wanted to do it in person, because I was just talking at home in my bedroom. I was like, I feel like some people would comment on this. And also sometimes when you talk alone, you have no feedback. So you just keep saying a lot of things. I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is this seems already borderline. I don't know. So it's really nice to have actual audience. So thanks a lot for coming out, and I don't know, hope to see you another time. Yes. Woo!